In the quiet town of Awuma lived Grandma Ngozi, a gentle woman in her late 70s. She was a widow, but her strength and kindness had carried her through many storms of life. People in the village often said she was the heart of the community because she never turned anyone away empty-handed. Even when she had little, she would share it with others. Years ago, she raised her children by working tirelessly on her small cassava farm. From sunrise to sunset, she bent her back in the fields, her hands rough from years of digging and planting. She made sure her children had food, clothes, and even schooling, though it often meant going hungry herself. Every wrinkle on her face told a story of sacrifice, yet her smile never faded. Now, in her old age, she lived quietly in the same mud brick house, depending on the small pension she received each month. Life was not easy, but she carried it with grace. She still woke up early to sweep her compound, tend to her little garden, and greet her neighbors with warmth. Children in the village loved visiting her because she always had kind words, funny stories, or roasted groundnuts to share. Though frail, she remained the glue that held her family together. Her children often came back to her for advice or blessings, and her presence was a source of comfort. To everyone around, Grandma Ngozi was not just a mother but a symbol of love, sacrifice, and quiet strength. Grandma Ngozi had 3 grown children, Chidibir, Amaka, and Ikena. To outsiders, it looked as if they cared for their mother because they often came around to visit. But in truth, their hearts were far from her. They did not come to check on her health or to keep her company. They came with one thing on their minds: her land, her small house, and the little pension she received every month. Almost every visit ended in quarrels. Chidibir, the eldest, would say, "As the first son, this house should be mine. Mama knows it is my right." Amaka would quickly snap back, "Don't deceive yourself. I have been the one helping Mama in the past. I deserve the bigger share." Then Ikena, the youngest, would join in. "Both of you talk as if I don't exist. Mama's land should be divided equally." Their voices would rise, arguments filling the small compound, while poor Ngozi sat quietly, watching with sadness in her eyes. Whenever her pension day came, things became worse. The children, who sometimes forgot to visit for weeks, suddenly appeared with wide smiles and sweet words. They would hug her, ask if she had eaten, and pretend to care. But the moment she collected her pension money, their eyes betrayed them. Each one tried to find a way to get a share, asking for help with school fees, hospital bills, or made-up emergencies. Deep inside, Ngozi knew their love was not real, yet her heart as a mother made it hard to refuse them completely. She would often sit alone at night, wondering where she went wrong. She had raised them with sacrifice and love, always putting their needs above her own. She remembered nights she slept hungry so they could eat, days she worked in the burning sun so they could go to school. And now, instead of gratitude, all they cared about was what she owned. It broke her heart. The neighbors noticed too. They whispered among themselves, saying, "Mama Ngozi's children only come when money is involved." Some even pitied her, wondering how such a kind woman could raise children so selfish. But Ngozi, despite the pain, never spoke badly about them in public. She always defended them, saying, "They are my children. They will change one day." But deep inside she feared the truth. Their greed was growing stronger with time. The land she had worked so hard to protect, the house she had built with her sweat, and the little money she relied on, all of it had become a target for her own children. She prayed every night that God would open their hearts, but with every new visit, her hope became weaker. What she did not know was that soon, their greed would push them to do something even more dangerous, something that would test her love as a mother in ways she never imagined. Zara was only 12 years old, yet her heart carried more love than all of Grandma Ngozi's grown children combined. Every weekend, she would leave her parents' house and run to her grandmother's compound, her small feet kicking up dust as she hurried along. For Zara, Grandma's home was her favorite place in the world. She loved the smell of the old kitchen, the sound of the chickens running around, and most of all, the gentle smile that always lit up Ngozi's wrinkled face whenever she arrived. Unlike the others, Zara never came for money or gifts. She came with joy, ready to help in any way she could. She would fetch water from the stream, her tiny arms balancing the bucket carefully. She would sweep the compound, collect firewood, and even help her grandma peel cassava or pound yam. But her favorite part of the day was in the evening, when she would sit beside Grandma, listening to her stories about the past. Stories of courage, sacrifice, and faith. Those stories made Zara love her even more. Everyone in the village noticed how close the two were. "That little girl is her shadow," they would say with a smile. And it was true. Zara cared for her grandmother in ways her own children had long forgotten. She made sure Grandma ate well, she reminded her to take her medicine, and she kept her company so she would not feel lonely. To Ngozi, Zara was not just a granddaughter. She was the daughter her heart longed for. One evening, after a long day of chores, Zara went to fetch a cup of water from the back of the house. As she passed near the mango tree, she heard low voices. Curious, she stopped and listened. To her shock, it was her uncles, Chidibir and Ikena, whispering angrily to each other. "We cannot waste more time," Chidibir muttered. "Mama is getting old. If we don't act fast, she might change her mind about the land." "Yes," Ikena agreed. "We will bring the paper tomorrow. She trusts us. All we need is her signature, and the land will belong to us." "Amaka won't get anything." Zara's heart pounded in her chest. Her little hands trembled as she held onto the tree trunk. She could not believe what she was hearing. They wanted to trick Grandma into signing papers that would steal everything she owned. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from fear, but from the thought of her gentle, innocent grandmother being betrayed by her own sons. She ran quietly back into the house, her young mind racing. Should she tell Grandma? Would her uncles get angry at her if they found out she had overheard them? For a moment, she felt like a small child caught in a storm too big for her. But then she looked at her grandmother, sitting calmly on her old wooden chair, humming a hymn, her eyes tired yet full of peace. That moment Zara made a decision. No matter what, she would protect her. She could not allow anyone, even family, to break her grandmother's heart. That night, she lay awake beside Ngozi, holding her hand tightly, promising herself that she would find the courage to speak the truth. She was only 12, but she knew love was stronger than greed. And in her young heart, she was ready to fight for the woman who had given her nothing but love. That night, Zara could not hold her fear inside any longer. She sat beside her grandmother, her little heart racing, her eyes filled with tears. She leaned close, her voice shaking as she whispered, "Grandma, don't trust them. They want to steal your money and your land." Her words came out like a cry for help, filled with innocence but also deep fear. Grandma Ngozi froze. She looked at the girl beside her, unable to breathe for a moment. "Zara, what are you saying, my child?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. But Zara's eyes did not waver. She clutched her grandmother's hands tightly and repeated, "I heard them, Grandma. Uncle Chidibir and Uncle Ikena. They said they will bring papers for you to sign. They want everything to belong to them." Ngozi's heart broke into pieces. She wanted to believe her granddaughter, but how could she accept that her own flesh and blood, the children she had carried, fed, and sacrificed everything for, were plotting against her? Felt impossible. She shook her head slowly, whispering to herself, "No, my children would never do this to me." But as she looked into Zara's tearful eyes, her soul wavered. This was a child too innocent to invent such a story. Zara had no reason to lie. The weight of truth pressed against her chest, and suddenly, she felt a pain deeper than any she had ever known. She turned away, hiding her face in her wrapper so Zara would not see her tears. Memories flooded her mind. Nights when she worked herself sick just to make sure her children ate, years of struggle on the cassava farm, days she went hungry so they could go to school. She thought of how she endured loneliness after her husband died, believing her children would one day reward her love with love of their own. But now this. Her hands trembled as she held Zara close. "My child," she whispered, her voice heavy with sorrow. "Sometimes the people we love the most can hurt us the deepest." She sighed deeply, her eyes staring into the darkness of the room. "But they are still my children. How can I stand against them?" Zara shook her head firmly, her little face glowing with determination. "Grandma, you have me. I will not let them trick you. Please promise me you won't sign anything they bring. Promise me." Ngozi looked at her granddaughter, her heart torn apart. Love for her children pulled her in one direction, but trust in Zara's innocent words pulled her in another. She remained silent, unable to give an answer. But deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. That night, as the oil lamp burned low, Grandma Ngozi lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Beside her, Zara held her hand tightly, refusing to let go. Ngozi's tears soaked her pillow as she whispered in her heart, "God, show me the truth. Help me protect what is left of my life." It was the beginning of a storm she could no longer ignore. The very next morning, just as the sun was rising over Ewuma, Grandma Ngozi heard footsteps and loud voices outside her compound. Her 3 children had arrived, Chidibere, Amaka, and Ikena. But this time their hands were not empty. They carried bags of rice, bottles of palm oil, and even some dried fish. Their faces were painted with smiles that looked warm on the surface, but deep inside, they were masks hiding their greed. "Mama!" Amaka called out cheerfully as she rushed to hug her. "We brought you food. We don't want you to lack anything." "Yes, Mama," Ikena added, dropping his bag on the ground. "You have suffered enough. We want to take care of you now." Chidibere, the eldest, stepped forward with a proud smile. He carried a brown envelope in his hand, tucked neatly under his arm. He bent low, pretending to show respect. "Mama, today we want to make things easier for you. Just sign this small document. It is only to protect the family land so no stranger will ever take it from us." For a moment, Ngozi's heart softened. They looked so kind, so loving, so different from the fighting and quarrels she had seen before. The food, the smiles, the sweet words. It almost made her believe. Almost. But then she remembered Zara's whisper the night before. "Grandma, don't trust them. They'll steal your money and your land." The memory struck her heart like a knife. Her hands trembled as she took the paper from Chidibere. "What is this about?" she asked slowly, her voice low but firm. "Ah, Mama, don't worry yourself," Amaka quickly said, flashing a nervous smile. "It's just a family agreement. It will keep the land safe for us." "Yes, Mama," Ikena added, his tone too smooth. "We know you love us, and we only want to protect what belongs to this family. Just sign, and we'll handle everything." But Ngozi's eyes narrowed. She was not a fool. She asked again, "If it is only to protect the land, why do I see your names written here?" The 3 siblings exchanged quick glances, their smiles faltering for a second before returning. "Mama, don't trouble yourself with details," Chidibere said, trying to sound calm. "We are your children. Can't you trust us?" Their words were sweet like honey, but underneath was poison. Ngozi could feel it. Her chest grew heavy, and her hands shook as she held the paper. She wanted to believe them, after all, they were her own children, but her heart remembered Zara's warning, and doubt clung tightly to her. Zara, who was sweeping in the corner of the compound, kept her eyes on her grandmother. Her small hands clenched the broom tightly, fear rising in her chest. She could see the trap unfolding before her very eyes. Ngozi sighed deeply, placing the paper slowly on her lap. "Give me time," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I will not sign today." The siblings forced smiles, but anger burned in their eyes. They had expected their mother to give in easily. As they left the house that evening, their sweet words faded into whispers of frustration. Grandma Ngozi sat silently, holding Zara's little hand, her heart torn apart. She knew now more than ever that the child's warning was true, but she also knew the storm with her children had only just begun. It was a quiet evening in Ewuma. The sun had already gone down, and Grandma Ngozi sat in her wooden chair, fanning herself with an old palm leaf. The compound was calm, the chickens already roosting, and the night air heavy with the smell of firewood smoke. She thought it would be another peaceful night, but trouble was waiting just around the corner. Chidibere walked into the house with a forced smile on his face. He carried the same brown envelope he had shown her days before. "Mama," he said quickly, his voice sharper than usual, "I brought the document again. Please let us finish this matter tonight. Just sign here so we can protect the family land." Ngozi looked at him quietly. She could sense his impatience. Something in her spirit felt uneasy. "Why are you rushing me, my son? If it is truly to protect the family, why can't I take more time? Mama, why are you delaying? Chittybeer pressed, his voice rising. You don't trust your own children. Sign it now before I leave. As he pushed the paper toward her, Zara was hiding behind the curtain, her small heart pounding. She had heard every word, and fear gripped her chest. She remembered the whispered conversation she had overheard days earlier. She knew this was the moment her grandmother could lose everything. Tears filled her eyes, and before she could stop herself, she ran out, crying loudly, "Grandma, don't sign! Don't sign! He is lying!" The neighbors, who were sitting outside their own compounds, heard the child's cry and rushed over. Within minutes, the small yard was filled with villagers, men, women, and children, curious to know what was happening. "What is it, Mom Ngozi?" one of them asked. "Why is little Zara crying like this?" Zara pointed at the paper in Chittybeer's hand, her voice shaking but firm. "He wants Grandma to sign this. I heard him and Uncle Ikenna plotting under the mango tree. They said the land and the house will all go to him if she signs." Gasps filled the air. The villagers demanded to see the paper. Embarrassed but unable to stop them, Ngozi handed it over. Chief Okafor's son, who could read well, opened it and began to speak. His face turned dark as he read aloud. "This is not protection. It is a will, a fake will, making Chittybeer the owner of all Mom Ngozi's land and property." The crowd erupted in shock. Women shook their heads in disbelief. Men scolded loudly. "How could you plan to steal from your own mother?" one shouted. "Have you no shame?" Ngozi's heart broke as she looked at her eldest son, her eyes filling with tears. "Chittybeer," she whispered, her voice trembling, "is this how you repay me? After everything I have done for you?" But Chittybeer could not answer. The neighbors' angry voices grew louder, and his siblings, who had also arrived, started arguing among themselves, each blaming the other. The truth was out, and there was no hiding anymore. That night, the mask of false love fell away. The entire village saw the betrayal with their own eyes, and Grandma Ngozi, though broken-hearted, finally knew where the danger truly lay. And by her side, little Zara stood bravely, the only one who had chosen truth over greed. The compound was no longer quiet. The air buzzed with angry voices as neighbors filled Grandma Ngozi's yard. The paper lay open on the wooden table, the truth written clearly for everyone to see. What was supposed to be a secret trick had now turned into a public shame. One elderly woman shook her head, clapping her hands in disbelief. "Chittybeer, Maka, Kenna, how can you do this to your own mother? The woman who gave you life. Shame on you!" Another man shouted. "You wanted to steal from a widow? From the hands that fed you when you were children? Do you have no conscience?" The neighbors' words cut through the air like sharp knives. The three siblings stood frozen at first, their faces burning with humiliation. Then, as if to save themselves, they began pointing fingers at one another. "It was Chittybeer's idea." Amaka snapped, her voice high with anger. "He forced us into this plan. I never wanted to do it." "That's a lie," Chittybeer barked back. "You were the one who brought the lawyer. You said Mama trusted you more than us." Ikenna threw up his hands. "Don't put this on me. Both of you wanted the land. I only agreed because I didn't want to be left with nothing." The argument grew louder, their voices clashing like thunder. Villagers stood in shock, watching siblings tear each other apart in front of their mother. Some covered their mouths, unable to believe what they were witnessing. In the middle of the chaos, Grandma Ngozi sat still, her hands trembling. Tears streamed down her wrinkled face as she looked at her children, the same children she had carried on her back, the same children she had sacrificed everything for. Her chest felt heavy, as if the years of pain had finally caught up with her in one crushing moment. "Enough!" she cried, her voice breaking. But the quarrel continued, each child more desperate than the other to escape blame. Her tears fell harder as she whispered to herself, "God, is this what I raised them to become? My own blood, my own children, plotting to destroy me." Finally she stood up, her fragile frame shaking, and shouted with all the strength she could gather, "Stop this madness!" The yard went silent. Everyone turned to look at her. Her voice cracked as she asked, "How could you do this to me? Did I not give you everything? Did I not suffer for you? Is this how you repay a mother's love? With betrayal?" The words pierced the crowd. Some women began to weep softly, touched by her pain. The siblings lowered their heads, but pride and shame kept them from apologizing. They stood in silence, each one burning with guilt yet too stubborn to confess. Ngozi sank back into her chair, her shoulders heavy with sorrow. "You have broken my heart," she whispered, clutching Zara's small hand for comfort. "The world has seen today that greed has blinded my children. May God judge between us." The neighbors murmured prayers for her and shook their heads at the children. The confrontation had ended, but the wound it left on her heart would never heal so easily. That night, the whole town carried the story, and the once respected children of Ngozi became a lesson of shame. As the noise of the confrontation filled the air, an old but strong voice suddenly rose above the crowd. "Enough talking." Everyone turned to see Chief Okafor, one of the most respected elders in Ewuma, step forward. He was a tall man, dressed in his traditional wrapper, with a walking stick in his hand. His presence alone carried weight. He was not only a respected elder but also one of the largest landowners in the community. The compound fell silent as he cleared his throat and looked straight at Ngozi's children. His eyes, sharp and full of authority, made even the boldest villagers lower their gaze. "Chidibir, Maka, Ikena," he said slowly, each name landing heavily in the night air. "Do you not fear God? Do you not fear shame? This woman, your mother, carried you in her womb, fed you with her own sweat, and raised you into adulthood. And this is how you reward her, by trying to steal from her." The three siblings shifted uneasily, their mouths opening but no words coming out. They could not look him in the eye. Chief Okafor turned to the crowd and raised the paper high for everyone to see. "This document is not love. It is betrayal. It is not protection. It is a trap. And I will not stand by and watch a mother be destroyed by the very children she gave life to." His voice thundered with authority, and the villagers nodded in agreement, murmuring words of support. Then he turned back to Ngozi, his face softening. "Mama Ngozi, do not cry anymore. You are not alone. From this day forward, I will personally make sure that your land and your home are protected by law. No one, son, daughter, or stranger, will be able to take them from you." The crowd clapped and cheered, while Ngozi covered her face with her wrapper, her body shaking with tears. But this time, the tears were not only of sorrow. They were mixed with relief. Someone was finally standing up for her when she felt most abandoned. Zara clung to her side, her small arms wrapped around her grandmother tightly, as if to say, "We are safe now." Chief Okafor lifted his walking stick and pointed it directly at the three siblings. His voice grew stern again. "Let me warn you. If you ever attempt such wickedness again, I will take this matter straight to the police and to the courts. You will face the law and you will face disgrace. Mark my words. This is your last warning." The siblings stood in shame, their heads bowed, their hearts racing. They had never felt so small in their lives. Silence covered the compound. No one dared to speak after Chief Okafor. His words carried too much power. The villagers slowly began to leave, shaking their heads at the greed of Ngozi's children but praising the bravery of little Zara and the wisdom of the elder. That night, Ewuma slept with a new story on its lips. A story of a grandmother nearly betrayed, a granddaughter who spoke the truth, and an elder whose voice turned disgrace into justice. And in her small house, Grandma Ngozi finally felt that maybe, just maybe, she was not as alone as she thought. Days passed after the shameful confrontation, but Grandma Ngozi's heart remained heavy. She sat quietly most evenings, staring at the land she had worked on for decades, the same land her children tried to snatch from her. Sometimes she wept silently, not because she would lose the property, but because she had already lost something far greater, the trust between a mother and her children. Yet even in her sorrow, she could not bring herself to curse them. They were still her blood, her babies once upon a time, the ones she had carried on her back and nursed through sickness. She told herself, "I will not disown them. Let God be the one to judge." But one thing became clear in her heart. She could no longer leave her land in their hands. So, with Chief Okafor's help, she went to the town lawyer. Her steps were slow, her wrapper faded, but her spirit was firm. The lawyer listened carefully and drew up a new will. This time she left everything, not to her grown, greedy children, but to little Zara, the granddaughter who had shown nothing but love. As the pen touched the paper, tears filled Ngozi's eyes. "This child," she whispered, "has given me more comfort than all her uncles and aunt combined. If love is the true inheritance, then she is the one who deserves it." She signed with shaky hands, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. News of her decision spread quickly through Ewuma. Some gasped at first, surprised that a woman would bypass her children and bless her granddaughter instead. But the more they thought about it, the more they nodded in agreement. "She is wise," the villagers said. "Why give land to children who will sell it for their greed? Better to give it to the one who truly cares." Even the local pastor spoke about it during Sunday service. "What Mama Ngozi has done is not wickedness," he said firmly. "It is justice. The Bible says love is greater than riches. She has chosen to reward love over greed, kindness over betrayal. Let us all learn from her." The congregation clapped, many women wiping their eyes, touched by her courage. Zara, still so young, could not fully understand the weight of what had happened, but she knew one thing clearly: her grandmother loved her, trusted her, and saw her heart. Whenever villagers visited, they would pat her on the head and say, "You are the true daughter of Ngozi. You have made her proud." As for Ngozi, she found peace again. She no longer feared her children's plots, because the land was now legally secured. Sitting under the mango tree one evening, she held Zara close and whispered, "When I am gone, you will have this place. Not because of wealth, but because you gave me something no one else did: pure love." Her words sank deep into Zara's heart, planting seeds of loyalty and gratitude. And for the first time in a long while, Grandma Ngozi smiled, knowing her legacy was safe in the hands of the one who truly deserved it. Months later, the same children who once filled Grandma Ngozi's compound with noise and arguments were nowhere to be found. After their plan was exposed, they stopped visiting her. They left her in silence, carrying their pride and shame like a heavy load. But greed has a way of catching up with people. One by one, life began to humble them. Chittybeer's business collapsed after he borrowed money he could not pay back. Amaka quarreled endlessly with her husband until she was thrown out of her home. Ikenna, the youngest, lost his job and was left with nothing. Broken and desperate, they had no one to turn to. And so, the same children who once wanted to steal from their mother came crawling back to her door. "Mama, please forgive us," they begged, their voices low, their faces pale with hunger and shame. "We made mistakes. Help us, even if it is just a little." Grandma Ngozi looked at them with eyes full of sorrow. Her heart was kind, but the wounds of their betrayal still stung deeply. With Zara by her side, holding her hand tightly, she spoke softly but firmly. "I am your mother, and I will never curse you. But remember this: love cannot be bought with lies. If you had chosen love instead of greed, you would not be standing here in shame." Her words cut through their hearts like fire. The villagers who heard of it whispered, "This is justice. This is what happens when greed blinds the heart." That evening, Ngozi sat with Zara under the mango tree, watching the sunset. For the first time in many years she felt peace. Her land, her home, and her legacy were safe, not in the hands of the greedy, but with the one who had loved her all along.